the ending of the Gita, the transformation of that Arjuna. Remember Arjuna in the beginning with his knees trembling, confused, wanting to quit the battlefield. What happens to that Arjuna now? Let's see. So we'll play this verse.
Iti te gnanamakyatam guhyat guhyataram maya vimrishyetadasheshena yathechasi tatha kuru.
Thus the supremely secret wisdom, iti jnanam guhyat guhyataram, has been revealed to you by me. Te akyatam maya. These are words spoken by Krishna to Arjuna. They are also words spoken by Krishna to you. So you've got a glimpse, an exposure to the supreme secret wisdom, reflecting on it fully. Vimrishya etat asheshena. Fully, asheshena, without remainder. Act as you deem fit. Do whatever you want. Yatha ichhasi tatha kuru. That holds for us also. You've got exposed to the Gita. What are you going to do? What is Arjuna going to do? This is not a dogma to be followed blindly or adopted out of fear, but a profound teaching to be reflected upon fully and internalized. So what does Arjuna decide? So there is a famous line, yathechasi tatha kuru. Act as you deem fit.
Arjuna uvacha nashto moha smritir labdha vat prasadan mayachyuta sthitosmi gata sandeha karishye vachanam tava.
Arjuna uvacha. Arjuna said, I have shed delusion and gained wisdom. Nashtaha moha maya smritihi labdha. Remember, till now Arjuna has been very honest. If he doesn't agree, he doesn't agree. He doesn't swallow everything that the teacher tells him. He is respectful, but speaks his mind. That's the Indian student, the true student. He's authentic. So when he says, Nashto moham, that's a powerful line. So my delusion is wiped out. I have shed delusion and gained wisdom. Smriti labdha. Through your divine grace, O Krishna. Tvat prasadat achyuta. I stand firm. See, earlier he said, I stand with my legs trembling. I stand firm with my doubts dispelled. Sitha asmi gata sandeha. I shall now act abiding by your words. Karishyasi vachanam tava. So this is coming from the entire being. It's not coming from his mind. Every part of being is synchronized, it's unanimous, it's a clear motivation. That's what Arjuna said. What are you saying? What is your soul saying? So you'll find that until the unification takes place, you'll get different answers from different parts of it. Isn't it true that for many of us, this sounds great, but baad mein, later, maybe after retirement. Well, so be it. Act as you deem fit. It's a very powerful line, but very motivating, because don't think you have to wait till you grow old and mature and all that. This is meant for young people. After retirement, you won't be able to do it. You have to do it now. As students of the Gita, we too need to choose our path and abide by it wholeheartedly. The teachings of the Gita make it amply clear as to what we need to do in terms of daily practice, so that we too can become yoked to the Supreme Divine. We too have a divine charioteer to guide our journey, for the Purushottama resides in our innermost being. Many people have this excuse, Arjuna was lucky, he had this charioteer whom he could consult with. But Krishna makes it clear. What does he make him clear? That Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Hriddeshe Tishyati. He says, I am there. Connect to me, contact me. So we don't have that excuse. The last 4 verses of the Gita take us back from the battlefield of Kurukshetra to the palace at Hastinapura to Sanjaya. Remember Sanjaya? That's where he started. Who has been narrating the dialogue between Arjuna and Krishna to his king Dhritarashtra. Sanjaya cannot help but feel privileged and grateful at having been given this miraculous opportunity of a live telecast. I mean, he's really kicked. Unexpected boon. His main job was to tell his king what's going on out there. But he got this unexpected gift. He never thought he's going to be the recipient of the Gita. Not only the recipient, he is also the transmitter of the Gita to all of us. Most important, he had the Vishwarupa Darshanam free. Okay, he was gifted. So he was in a unique position. He was not an ordinary human being. He expresses his sense of absolute wonder at having been able to witness the proceedings and so receive, though vicariously, the profound message of the Gita. We too need to be grateful to the character of Sanjaya in the Mahabharata for having been the agent of transmission of the Gita to us. Although his role is that of a mere assistant to the king, he is no ordinary person. He has an intuitive wisdom of his own, which he reveals in this last verse of the Gita. Now I'm going to give you the last verse. What was the first verse of the Gita? Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yuyutsavaha mamaka pandavashchaiva kimakurvata Sanjaya. Dhritarashtra asked Sanjaya. Now Sanjaya is giving it back to Dhritarashtra. He is declaring something to his own king. What's he declaring? Let's see.
Yatra yogeshwarah Krishnah yatra partho dhanurdharah tatra shrir vijayo bhutihi dhruva nitirmatir mama.
Wherever there is Krishna, Lord of Yoga, yatra yogeshwarah Krishna. Wherever there is Arjuna, the archer, yatra partha dhanurdharah, there will be certainly glory, victory, prosperity. Tatra Shri Vijaya Bhutihi Dhruva, and law of righteousness. This is my conviction. Niti Mati Mama. So we can substitute here wherever there is the awakened IITian. Only good things will come out. That's the best thing that you can ever do. Now he's totally convinced. So he's basically telling his king, boss, you guys are going to lose. Even before the war is fought, he says, I have no doubt left. And that's his intuition. Sanjaya observes here that Krishna himself is a great exemplar and Lord Yogeshwara of the yoga he teaches. That is the purpose of his avatarhood. He himself is a Sthitapratnya. He himself is a supreme Karmayogin. Moreover, inspired by the teachings of the Gita, Arjuna has risen from his confused lower nature and is clearly now inspired to take up willingly his divinely ordained role as a Vibhuti. No, Arjuna, if he really wants to do something single-handedly, he can do impossible things. He has that potential. But that potential will manifest only if he is fully driven. He can be fully driven by the lower nature, he'll do something. But when he is possessed of the higher nature, he can do millionfold what he is normally capable of. This is true not just of Arjuna, it's true of every single one of us. Arjuna has risen above his confused lower nature and is clearly now inspired to take up willingly his divinely ordained role as a Vibhuti. The combination of avatar and Vibhuti is clearly invincible, and the outcome is bound to manifest as glory, victory, and prosperity. Thus ends the Gita. Its message is clear and profound. We live ordinarily in a confused state of ignorance and lack of fulfillment, primarily because we are not in touch with the Supreme Divine, who abides secretly everywhere, including the core of our innermost being. The integral Karmayoga of the Gita, which combines knowledge and devotion with consecrated action, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga and Karma Yoga, gives us a way to awaken to the living presence of the Supreme Divine and stay yoked to it, while developing and purifying various parts of our being, physical, vital and mental. This liberates us from the bondage of action and ego entrapment, keeps us connected to a profound and mystic stillness, and enables us to abide in a higher divine nature from which creative action flows. Staying so yoked, we discover fulfillment and bliss in action and inaction. Our human life becomes divinized. We then see and experience the Supreme Divine manifesting secretly everywhere, in all beings and at all times. Om Vasudeva Sarvamiti. Now let's conclude. Review questions in this last chapter. Discuss the deeper meaning of supreme perfection and freedom from action. Naishkarmya Siddhim Paramam. What is the final supreme teaching of the Gita with regard to discovering and abiding by the immortal Dharma? Although it looks easy, why is it actually difficult for most people? Do you find it inspiring now or perhaps in the future? What in your view is meant by integral Karma Yoga? How is this different from plain Karma Yoga? The answer to this question I'll indicate through a diagram. This tetrahedron, this is a plan view of the tetrahedron, shows the three paths. The first is the path of action. The difference in action, normally we do mechanically, we do for selfish reasons, we are obsessed with the fruit of action, and if we don't get the fruit, we don't do or we get worked up. In concentrated action, we may be motivated by the fruit, but we kind of give up the fruit while we perform to the best of our abilities. We bring in a little bit of bhakti in the consecration, but the focus is on doing what needs to be done with absolute skill and perfection, not worrying about the outcome, actually having an assurance that everything will go fine, all is well. The only success we demand is being yukta. We have to be yoked. The outcome is not important. So this is a conscious application of will. Karma Yoga is all about conscious will. You're applying your motivation, your intention, your willpower to do what needs to be done. Karyam karma. The other path which parallelly should be done is the path of knowledge, not just jnana but vijnana, so that's it, integral knowledge. And fundamentally it's being clear that there is no doership. It's being clear that everything is the play of the gunas in the lower nature, and that there's something higher that's possible when one can go into the higher nature. It's to really understand clearly the distinction between deha and dehi, between asat and sat. It is really to digest the meaning of ahankara vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate, which sadly is the way the world lives today. So to be free from that and to stand back and see things are going on whether you like it or not, and even your actions are happening automatically, but you don't do that anymore. You start doing things mindfully, soulfully. In fact, all your actions you can divide into two categories. One done non-mindfully, non-soulfully, the other done mindfully and soulfully. So as you practice, you'll find that initially the percentage of mindful action is very small, 1%. And the power of your practice will raise that to 10%, 20%. If you can make it 50%, massive breakthrough. But for the fully evolved Jnani Bhakta Karma Yogin, it's 100%. And that's what brings completion and fulfillment into your life. And the third aspect that you have to bring in, which is powerfully explained in the Gita, especially towards the end, is divine love. It's not just devotion. Sri Aurobindo really goes deep into this. I strongly recommend that you should read, after Essays of the Gita, when you're ready, a book called Synthesis of Yoga. In the Synthesis of Yoga, you have 5 parts. The first part talks of the conditions of synthesis. The Gita itself is a huge synthesis because these look apparently independent paths, but it attempts a synthesis. But it's not very logically brought out. You have to figure it out for yourself. Many of the verses are spread out. We've tried to bring some harmony and sequence into this. So Sri Aurobindo discusses the conditions for synthesis in the first part. Second part talks with Karmayoga, but he doesn't use the word Karmayoga. He calls it the yoga of divine works. Divine works ultimately is works carried out in the higher nature, which the Gita doesn't dwell so deeply into. It talks of purification and it only hints at higher nature. But this chapter deals with that. The second part deals with Jnana Yoga, but it doesn't use the word Jnana Yoga. It says the yoga of integral knowledge. Very deep, very profound. You see, when you actually read or listen to something that's obviously coming from a level of higher consciousness, you are raised to that level whether you like it or not. That's what happens to Arjuna in the presence of Krishna. You are lifted up, you have no choice. Similarly, if you are in the company of people in the lower nature, you are also lowered down because you don't have that power. This is to be able to hold that power. So one way to purify yourself is to keep the company of people in the higher nature. They may be dead or alive, it doesn't matter, but their words will lift you up. Sri Aurobindo wrote a book, an epic poem, probably the largest poem ever written in English language. It's called Savitri. The same Savitar that we refer to in the Gayatri mantra. It's a story from the Mahabharata, but it's an epic poem. And he rarely revised it. Of course, it went through many revisions. But somebody asked him, you wrote a poem, why do you touch it? And why don't you touch many of the lines? So his answer was very profound. It comes from a very high state of self-awareness. He said, I would touch the words only if I'm sure that it's coming from a higher consciousness than the one which wrote it. So that level of understanding is very important. The third, and when we talk of integral knowledge, we are actually coming towards direct knowledge. In direct knowledge, you don't need to do it the normal modern scientific way. I don't know if you've done biology, you would have probably had to tear apart a flower and then look at the petal and sepal and write a lot about these things. Or if you had to probably dissect an earthworm or a cockroach or a frog. Have you done it? I've done it in Kolkata. That's not the way. You don't tear apart anything. You just sit in front of it and meditate and become the object. And you have direct knowledge, one-to-one of what's going on. That's direct knowledge. And it can lead, the yogis could do, to have trikala drishti. It's really profound knowledge. These things look kind of mumbo-jumbo to us because we are trained in this. We should not drop our training because this is what we can rely on now. But we must be open to the higher wisdom. And so that fusion is what India really needs from us. The third is divine love. That's what he called the yoga of divine love. And the yoga of divine love for most of us begins with external worship. Then there is some adoration, and there is an intimate relationship, and finally there is the ecstasy of a divine union. That's the highest. So this put together is integral. He called it integral yoga, and then he wrote another concluding chapter, which is his famous integral yoga. It's called the yoga of self-perfection. Okay, so that's for the future for you to read. I just want to end by telling you, we covered so far, I don't know how we managed it, 162 verses from 700 verses. This is the original Bhagavad Gita. I hope you will get a chance to read it. I'm actually doing a translation of all the 700 verses, but you can read any available translation. The first is Arjuna Vishada Yoga. We did 5 out of 47. The second is Sankhya Yoga. We covered 32 out of 72. Karma Yoga. We covered 19 out of 43. Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga, chapter 4, we covered 9 out of 42. Karma Sannyasa Yoga, chapter 5, we covered just 1 out of 29. Atma Sanyamya Yoga, we covered 12 out of 47. 7th chapter, very beautiful chapter, the beginning of it, we covered, that's Jnana Vijnana Yoga. Vijnana comes here. We covered 4 out of 30 verses. Akshara Brahma Yoga, we didn't touch. Raja Vidya Raja Guhya Yoga, 9th chapter, beautiful chapter, we covered 5 out of 34. Vibhuti Yoga, we just did 1 verse out of 42. Vishwarupa Darshana Yoga, beautiful chapter, we covered 1 out of 55. Bhakti Yoga, we covered 8 out of 20. Kshetra Kshetrajna Vibhaga Yoga, we covered 3 out of 35. Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga, it's all about the gunas, we covered 7 out of 27. Purushottama Yoga, we covered 1 out of 20. Devasura Sampad Vibhaga Yoga, all actions, thoughts can be broadly categorized into divine and undivine. Daivik Sampati and Asurik Sampati. So, clear understanding of this. We didn't have time to cover this. Shraddha Traya Vibhaga Yoga, the 3 types of Shraddha we covered. It's about the gunas, we covered 16 out of 28. And the chapter, actually we covered chapter 2 and 18 massively. Chapter 18, the ending of the Gita, the last Moksha Sannyasa Yoga, we covered 38 out of 78 verses. Okay, so this is actually enough. My suggestion is you have to keep going back to it. Read when you want to, but keep in touch with this book. Keep in touch with the verses. Keep in touch with the spirit of the Gita. Listen to these verses. Reflect on them. They've been a guide for so many people all over the world. Mahatma Gandhi used to refer to it every day. Thank you.